Hi, and welcome to Snowbiz 24/7, small screen, big host, worldwide audience. I'm your host, Nicholas Snow, and yes, over 6 feet of snow has hit your internet experience. Now, with me on the show today, I'm very proud to introduce you to transgendered novelist Iolanthe Woulff, known as Lanny to her friends, and she's here to give us the advance word on her new novel, She's My Dad, coming out in the fall of 2009. Available from Amazon.com and all sorts of places when it does come out. So let's introduce Lanny. Hello, Lanny.
Hi, Nicholas. Thank you for the nice welcome.
You are very welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm wondering, Lanny, is this your first book?
Actually, it's not my first novel. It's my debut novel. I wrote a novel many, many years ago, a so-called coming-of-age novel. And one of the problems with it was that although it's supposed to be about growing up, I hadn't really grown up at that point yet, so the novel was deeply flawed, and it wasn't published, and I sulked for several decades and then finally got back to work, and the result, finally, of my industry is She's My Dad.
What motivated you to get back to work?
I felt that I had a good story to tell, and having been through many, many years, including the process of gender transition, I wanted to incorporate that into a story that told not only a good story, but also some of the elements that transgender people like myself encounter.
What are some of those elements?
Well, one of the things that I think we all have in common is that we leave behind what I would call gender-specific footprints in our past. In other words, all of us were at one time members of the opposite gender to that which we're living in now. And some of those footprints can have unexpected consequences. And it's about one of those forgotten moments in time that the plot is based in She's My Dad.
Who is the central character in She's My Dad?
Well, the title character is a lady by the name of Nickie Farrell. She's a transsexual woman, middle-aged like myself, and she's a college English professor, which is something I probably would have liked to have been in a different life. But she goes back to teach students at a college that's her alma mater. And in the process, she encounters some things that were left over from when she was an undergraduate and still a boy. Things that surprise her and that get out of hand.
Ah. Now, did anything surprise you as you wrote the book, or did you know what you were writing as you went along?
No, a lot of things surprised me about the book. I had an outline, and within a few chapters, the story began to go off on its own tangents, and I went with the flow. Several times, minor characters that I thought I was just introducing for momentary color became much more important than I had originally thought.
Now, one of the interesting things to your personal story is that you happen to be the offspring of Pulitzer Prize-winning author Herman Wouk.
That's true.
He won the Pulitzer Prize for The Caine Mutiny, was, a huge success with War and Remembrance, which was made into a miniseries. Now, growing up in that literary household must have been an influence in terms of your own journey to becoming a novelist.
Well, unquestionably it was. I was raised around books, and reading was emphasized in our family from my earliest memory, so that it was second nature to me to always be reading a book. My father told stories all the time. The whole atmosphere was just drenched in storytelling and reading books from the beginning, and so I think I just took to it. I didn't really ever think about it as a choice, it just was. And another thing that helped was that when I was young, we lived in the Caribbean on the island of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And at that time, and I may be giving away my age here, there was no television. So in the absence of television, I read constantly for entertainment. And that, I think, gave me a leg up on a body of literature that has provided a background for me to draw on in my own writing.
Does She's My Dad reflect a certain genre?
Well, that's an interesting question. I thought of it as a suspense novel. I wrote it with that in mind. I started to write it as a suspense novel. I think it went a little bit broader than that, and I often think of it now as a genre hybrid because it has elements not only of suspense, I mean, it's been described to me by people who've read it as a page-turner, but it also has elements of women's fiction and literary fiction, and I also think humor. I tried to inject some humor into the story so that it is a mix. I hope there's something for everybody in it. That was a goal that I had in mind when I wrote it.
You have shared it. We're taping this in July of 2009, a few months before the book comes out. Mm-hmm. You've shared it with a select few of your friends and fans.
Yes.
A diverse group of people. So this book has something
Yes.
for everyone. What are some of the responses you're getting?
The responses have been really very, very gracious and very heartening to me. I've had people read the novel who were doctors, lawyers. I've had people who are massage therapists, really a broad range of people. And different people have picked up on different elements in the book that particularly spoke to them. In many cases, they picked up on things that surprised me that I hadn't even thought of myself. And I found that absolutely fascinating as a writer because it told me that I had created situations and a world beyond my own that other people were able to relate to that was really alien to me.
Now, in the process of becoming known in your own right as the author of this book, you're becoming known worldwide. I know you recently got fan mail from France, and you have your own Facebook fan page. For those listening, it's Iolanthe, quote, Lanny, unquote, Woulff, Woullff. How are you feeling about this sudden notoriety? Because I know you live a quiet life.
It's a bit overwhelming. I have to be honest about that. I do live a fairly private and quiet life with my beloved wife Jolene, and the social networking explosion is something that I had no familiarity with, and although it's very exciting and it's certainly very gratifying to receive, as you say, fan mail from abroad, it is a bit unnerving for me, and I'm doing my best to acclimatize myself to it, but it takes some getting used to for me.
What would you say to anyone watching that is questioning their own place in life, and how does your book perhaps speak to them?
Well, that's not too large a question, is it?
No, it isn't.
I mean, do we have 3 hours? Look, I think that it's always indicative of wisdom for people to question their place in life. And it's not always an easy process, but if they can do it, I wish them great success. As to whether or not my novel can help them, I hope so. I hope so. My title character, Nickie Farrell, has questioned her life and her place in it all the time. And the story, I hope, illustrates for the readers just how hard it can be to find that place, but how rewarding it is when it finally happens.
Well, thank you for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching, and check out She's My Dad.